Rabbi, give up any handout last week?
Rabbi Greg taught last week, so I don't know. I bet. Do you mind if my mom sits here? Thank you. Here, Ma, you can sit here.
Thanks, God.
The rocks.
Good morning. Fortunate every day.
Sparkles are. Yeah, all the updates, I like it. She went on an outlook today. Okay, oh wow, side,
Those eyebrows. Oh, boy.
okay.
Thanks. Good morning.
It's a tag team, okay. Happy Shabbat Shalom, everybody. So it's so nice to be together. We have a beautiful Parsha that we're gonna study this morning. And we are going to focus on gratitude. You can have, I'm gonna put them on the screen also, but if you want, they're blue Torah books right behind Lauren and Marsha. They're blue Torah books there if anyone wants them. If not, I'll have it on the screen. So Kitavo, Moses is reminding us and sharing some new information with our story here about Bikurim, about the gathering of the first fruits. And the overall message of our Parsha is about grounding ourselves in gratitude. So you know what I'm going to ask you to do first. I'm going to ask you to do. Right? We're going to ground ourselves. Put all of your Chazarai and Mishagas away. You need nothing. You literally need nothing. You don't need a pen, you don't need a paper, you don't have to hold your bag, you don't have to look at your phone, you don't need to do anything because you're here. You've arrived here in this place intentionally. You came here this morning or Shabbat morning to receive the words of our tradition, to open your hearts and your soul and your mind to the wisdom and richness of Torah. This week, we are grounding ourselves in gratitude and recognizing the fruits of our labor, whatever they may be. Ideas, discoveries, new insights, new friendships, reconnections, reimagining ourselves and who we are during this month of Elul. All of these are our first fruits of our labor as we anticipate a new year on the horizon. Ground yourself and think and imagine what all of those bikurim, what all of those first fruits are for you. And I want you to hold them within you. I want you to visualize them and imagine them. What are the things that you are grateful for today on this Shabbat morning? I want you to hold those with you as we open up the words of our Torah, as they place us in a space of the desert and the wilderness, a place that is barren. And yet, we are being prepared to enter into a land that will be bountiful and fruitful. And in this place, we will gather the things that grow from the earth and offer them back to God in gratitude. It's a beautiful metaphor for how we can live our lives. Even in spaces of desolation, even in spaces where it seems hard to plow and to plant and to grow, from there we can bring forth bikurim, the fruits of our labor, and be grateful for them. Let's begin. Okay, so let's begin with our blessing for the study of Torah. I have a all right, together. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asot b'divrei Torah. Okay, so our Torah begins, Kitavo. If you have a book in front of you, you can open it up. And what we're going to do is we're going to start with, it's chapter 26. Okay. Oh, shit. There we go. Okay, you can see it? Okay, great. All right, Parsha Deuteronomy, we're in Bamidbar, Deuteronomy, chapter 26, verse 1. We're going to go through, we're going to really focus on the words today, and then Safaria has this beautiful, obviously incredible library of commentary, and I came upon one that I am just, it's a longer commentary, but it's really worth reading. So we're going to read through the Torah verses, but I want us to spend a really good amount of time on the commentary today, okay? It's talking about, the commentary is talking about Moses, the human being, okay, with relationship to this Torah portion. Okay, let's start. Remember, what are we paying attention to? What are we looking for? Words, good. Words that interest us, words that stand out for us, and most importantly, what questions do we have for the text? Okay. All right, V'haya ki tavo el haaretz. When you enter the land that your God is giving you, noten lecha nachala v'rishta v'yashavta ba, giving to you as a heritage, and you possess it and settle in it. Right, we're in the desert. We're very close. We are very close to inhabiting the land. Moses, his final words, his sermon, his incredible story that he's sharing with the people, says, when you enter the land that God is giving you as a heritage, the rishta. Okay. Deuteronomy 26. Yeah. And you possess and settle in it. The lakachta mereshit. You shall take some of every first fruit of the soil, which you harvest from the land that your God is giving you. Put it in a basket and go to the place where your God will choose to establish the divine name. I'm going to stop there. When we just look here at these these two verses. What stands out for you? What's interesting for you? What questions do you have of the text?
Well,
Yes, but Susan, and then Chris.
we're in the desert,
Yeah,
so where are they going to find the fruit to offer?
right. So what's happening here? What's the first word? When you enter. Okay? We're planning. Remember, we're sitting here in the desert. We don't have any of this around us yet, right? But Moses is doing what here? Okay, he's preparing them, he's planning. We don't have all the answers yet, okay? But there is something going on here because this is not something that they're obligated to do right now. They can't. They're not in the land. Okay? They can't grow and build. How do they eat? They eat manna. Okay? But so they're not going to be receiving manna. Because what are they going to start doing in the land? They're going to start working the land. Okay? So you're going to start working in this land. When you work the land, things are going to be produced. All right? And when you enter the land, here's the first thing that you do when your first harvest arrives. What do? We only know from what we have. Right. Take from the first fruits. Okay, not the whole thing, right? Take from the first, place it in a basket, and you're going to begin a pilgrimage. Because also the recognition is here, if we look into the text, we're not all living in one tent settlement any longer, right? We're dwellers. Remember, all of us have received different portions of this land. We're going to be living all over the place. So the assumption here is you're not all going to live right on top of the Mishkan. We're no longer portable. It's going to be a permanent place. So take these things, place them in a basket, and go.
Is this Shavuot or is this something different?
It's not that it's completely different, but this is not about the Chag. Okay, this is about purely what it's written here is the first fruits of your soil. Okay, now we have different harvest festivals in the year. Okay, so right now we're not linking them to a harvest festival or a Chag. But what Moses here is doing something very intentionally that we're going to discover as we keep going. But that's a very good observation, right? Here we're going to take from these first fruits, every first fruit of the soil, okay? Placed in the basket, and you're going to have to go. You're going to go to the place that who chooses? God chooses to establish the divine being, okay? All right. Now here's what you do with it. You shall go to the priest in charge at that time and say to him. What's interesting about that?
An obligation for them to go to the priest.
Okay. It's so slight, it's so subtle.
It's in charge at that time.
At that time. So what is fascinating about that? Or what is it saying here? There's longevity here. It's not just going to be who's the priest now, right? This is really interesting. No longer are we talking about things that are just happening in the short term, right? When we leave Egypt and we make a journey in the desert and we are heading to the promised land, we're really talking about these short-term narratives that are happening. At this point, you will do this, and at this point, you will do this, right? All these kind of like short spurts of a journey. This now, Moses, in this moment in his life, at this point of his journey, is also projecting out forward thinking, future thinking. You will go to the priest in charge at that time. May not be who's the priest here, in this moment. Maybe some time from now. But even in some time from now, you will still continue to do these things.
So I wrote down my notebook, words that stick out, heritage, possess, and settle, which all as a linguist seems to me, this is longevity.
Yes, beautiful, beautiful. A heritage, an inheritance, right? You're receiving it from your ancestors. It's your inheritance, your heritage, you will possess it, you will settle it, right? Very, very good. As well as, it's not just the first fruits that when you get there on that first harvest. Right, what's interesting here too, that links us to the way that we practice Judaism still today. These rituals are what? Continual. L'dor v'dor, generation to generation, year after year. There's a life cycle to Jewish time. Not just to the holidays, but to all these different rituals of what we do. Okay? I just love that. That's fascinating. Okay? Acknowledge and then say to the priest, right? Here's the ritual. I acknowledge this day before your God that I entered the land that God swore to our fathers to assign us. Here I am. I've entered this land. The priest will take the basket from your hand and set it down in front of the altar of your God. You shall then recite as follows before your God. This is absolutely a template for how to engage in a ritual, which is not a modern interpretation of tradition. It stems from our tradition, right? It's not the first time we see things like this, but it's just the beauty of the experience. It's intentionally designed from the beginning, right? All right, so you will then recite as follows before your God. My father was a wandering Aramean. He went down to Egypt with meager numbers and sojourned there. But there he became a great and very populous nation. Where have you read this text before? In what book? Okay, where else do we read it? In a ritual way?
Oh, the Passover,
The Haggadah.
Haggadah.
Yes, right? In the Haggadah. My father was a wandering Aramean. There's a tradition of some Jewish communities that you actually act out that portion of the Haggadah. That the one person at the Haggadah stands up, puts like a big sack over his shoulder, and will walk around the Passover room, the Seder table, carrying this like big, whatever, sack of whatever on their shoulder. And to reenact the moment that we were wandering Arameans. We went down into Egypt. We were fleeing a famine, and we made our way all the way to Egypt, just to experience and to remind ourselves of what brought us there in the first place, and then what we experienced there. We became a great and populous nation, and then what happened? The Egyptians dealt harshly with us and oppressed us. They imposed heavy labor upon us. We cried to Adonai, the God of our ancestors, and Adonai heard our plea and saw our plight, our misery, and our oppression. God freed us from Egypt by a mighty hand, by an outstretched arm and awesome power, and by signs and portents, bringing us to this place, giving us this land, a land flowing with milk and honey. Why is this here? Okay. Why are we reading these words with regard to the ritual of the first fruits?
It's our story. We never got there.
Tell me more.
We wouldn't have left Egypt if God had not listened to us, heard us, and rescued us.
Yeah. And now tie it into the first fruits.
And we've gotten to the land that promised us, and now we need to get it back.
Okay, now we need to get back.
acknowledge.
There it is, right? Beautiful. It's not enough from the Torah text, from what we're reading right now in this Torah text, it's not enough just to gather the fruits, bring it to God, and offer a gratitude. The ritual could have been written in a number of ways. There are multiple permutations of how this could have worked. Put the fruit in a basket, go on your journey, get to the temple, offer it to the priest, say a Baruch Adonai, say Amen, turn around, head home. Great, right? Could have been totally fine. Walk to the place, get up to the front, hand them their fruits, Modani, Modima Naknula, all those wonderful things, head out on your way. But it does something different here. The text is asking of the people to do something different. Recall from where you've come. Pause. When you bring the fruits, lay it down. Just like we do in our class. Put everything down. You're standing with a basket, you're bumping around, right? The things falling out, you can't be focused, things are happening, right? No, place it down. Find your kavanah, your full focus and intention. Place yourself purely in that moment, have the presence of mind that when you offer these first fruits in the land that you've entered after this journey, recall from where you've come. Remind yourself of what this heritage and this inheritance, where it comes from, what it means. Right? Then once you've done that, now you can truly be fully focused and intentional and aware consciously of the bikurim, of the first fruits. Not about fruit. But the fruit is a beautiful, tangible way, right? It's a symbol, it's a beautiful, tangible way to say, yeah, we're here. We've made it here. We've worked the land. The land is produced for us in this partnership. I'm working it. God's helped to produce it. We're in partnership. We're in covenant with one another. Now I'm going to be grateful for it, but I'm also going to remind myself and take a moment to look inward to realize where I've come from and to be grateful for what has been produced from that journey and to offer gratitude to God. Okay? We'll keep going a little bit. All right. Wherefore I now bring the first fruits of the soil which you, Adonai, have given me. You shall leave it before your God, bow low before your God. Show reverence, right? And you'll enjoy together with the family of the Levite and the stranger in your midst all the bounty that your God has bestowed upon you in your household. Okay, so it's not just for you to enjoy. You can enjoy with everybody. We're all going to enjoy this bounty. And when you've set aside in full the 10th part of your yield in the 3rd year, the year of the tithe, and have given it to the family of the Levite, the stranger, the fatherless, the widow, that they may eat their fill in your settlements, you shall declare before your God, I have cleared off the consecrated portion from the house. I have given it to the Levites, the stranger, the fatherless, and the widow, just as you commanded me. I have neither transgressed nor neglected any of your commandments. So once you say you're thankful, once you recognize from where you come, then you need to explain out loud. Not enough to just have done it, to right, the 4 corners of your field that you give to the widows, the orphan, to the stranger, right, to the people in need, and you've left them out there. That's all excellent. You do, then you acknowledge, you say it out loud, you name it. I have done this, right? This is all part of the ritual. And then it continues. I have not eaten of it while in mourning. I have not cleared out any of it while I was impure. And I have not deposited any of it with the dead. I have obeyed my God. I have done just as you commanded. Look down from your holy abode from heaven and bless your people Israel and the soil you have given us, a land flowing with milk and honey, as you swore to our fathers. Your God commands you this day to observe these laws and rules. Observe them faithfully with all your heart and soul. As we read this text and we now ground ourselves in our Jewish time, and we think about where we sit in the Jewish year, I want you now to think about this ritual, and I want you to set the context and reimagine it. We are now in Elul. The High Holy Days are 11-ish days away. Okay. Reimagine this ritual for me. Bring this text to life and make it relevant to your own life today. What is it asking us to do? And this Torah portion is always this close to Rosh Hashanah. Sometimes exactly the Shabbos before, this is 2 Shabbos before. But this Torah portion, because remember Slichot is Saturday. So I want you to be thoughtful about that. This Torah portion intentionally is placed right before the beginning of the new year, during the work of Elul. What is it asking of us to do? Okay, show gratitude, what else?
And share our benefit.
Okay. Share the bounty,
Look back where you were last year and how you're going to go into the next year with, with whatever gratitude you can for the past and future.
yeah, right? What else? You're all doing great, yeah.
Look at yourself, if you have completed their mind.
Oh, interesting. Look at back at yourself and see, have you observed and done the commandments? Right, that's the cheshbon nefesh part, that's the accounting of our soul piece. Okay, it's similar to what this is asking of us. Right? The preparation, the spiritual and the soulful preparation and the work, because it's not just, it's work. It is work to engage in what our tradition asks us. It's intentionally work, avodah, service. The word avodah means work, but it also means prayer. It also means service. Isn't that awesome? And really, like, think about that. Prayer, service, and work all share the same Hebrew word. It's confusing. Okay.
Prayer is fun.
It's the service of the soul. It's the work, like prayer is an interesting thing. So Leah goes, oh, prayer isn't work. Okay. For you, it may not be. For others, it's hard work. For others, it's the work to find the meaning, work to find the words, work to find the ideas. It is service. Work and service are different. Okay? In service to God, I find these words to offer. This is asking us to do just as much as it's asking us to be, just as much as it's asking us to reflect. Go on a journey. What we're going to look at with the commentary says to us that this is also going to be thinking about diaspora. When we are not in the land, how would you observe this ritual? You can't. You cannot do the ritual as is if you are not in the land. Because then the Mishnah, the Midrash is going to say, and the Mishnah is going to say, well, actually, this ritual, there are rituals and there are rites that can only be done in the land of Israel. That's why we have the Yerushalmi Talmud, the Talmud that only contains the laws that pertain to what you do in the land. The Babylonian Talmud is a completely innovative source text that helps us to imagine how we live and do and observe outside of the land of Israel. We needed that because of this, among other things. But it's fascinating because this specifically says to us, when you receive the bounty of the land that the Lord has given you, you collect those fruits. The Mishnah is also going to say that those fruits are only the 7 species because only those things, those are indigenous, those are the sanctified fruits that come from the land. So you only collect those 7 as the first fruits and bring them to God. Because they are in of themselves holy. And bring up to God.
What are the first fruits? In the land, what are those fruits that you?
So the 7 species, right? So you have pomegranates.
Yeah.
You have dates, pomegranate, grapes, wheat, barley. What?
Dates.
Yeah, not almonds. Wait, what are we making roses? What are we doing here? Thanks. Okay, right. So those.
I read this thing that
Yeah.
milk.
I can't wait you right
I know, I read this thing that the milk doesn't refer to like milk from a cow, that it could be date milk or it could be almond milk. Not almond milk that we have now, but that they could get milk out of the almonds, so
Yeah.
I just thought, That was one of the first.
She's making a charcuterie board, and we're making the 7 species. Okay, right?
You know,
So-
a meeting without you.
So, right, I'm like, that sounds really good, like, let's do that, okay, right? So, only, right, it's the comments and commentary. Jack, be careful, creating commentary over here. So, anyway, okay, you're too much, all right, so. All right, let's go to the, on that note, we're gonna switch to the commentary. All right, but I wanted us to think about this because there are things when we are in. What's fascinating is that the Torah here itself, as is written, if we put on our theological lens that, okay, this is this document that was written by God, Moses at the time, then there is a longevity of thought here. There's a futures thinking thought, right?
And where
If we take our scholarly academic lens and know that this is written in different time periods by human hands, they're also making a commentary on this too. Right? That we're not always gonna be in the land. Now, it's not only a commentary on sovereignty of the land, you could be living elsewhere in the diaspora. And they still say that, you know what, when it's time to do this, get to the place that God has chosen for you to be. And express your gratitude. And recognize that you too are an inheritor of this land. And recognize the gratitude. And then there's the next piece, that this commentary, that this author responds to that I want us to switch to. Okay, and this happens a little bit later on in the Torah portion where Moses says, actually we can look at it right now, Deuteronomy 29:3. Let's do that so that we have context for this. Still in this Torah portion. I don't want to make people online that. Okay, so we're still in Kitavo. Okay. To come, and you will come, you will enter, when you enter the land.
is it already?
Right, it has to be, right? When you enter, right now we're here, still in no man's land, still in the desert. Tell when you enter, when you go into the land, okay? So, so Moses is continuing on this whole diatribe with the people. And then he summons them again. Moses summons all of Israel and says to them, you have seen that all that Adonai has done before your very eyes in the land of Egypt, to Pharaoh and to all his courtiers and to his whole country. The wondrous feats that you saw with your own eyes, those prodigious signs and marvels. Yet, listen to this, yet to this day, God has not given you a mind to understand, or eyes to see, or ears to hear. I, Moses, led you through the wilderness for 40 years. The clothes on your back did not wear out, nor did the sandals on your feet. Just live in this text for a moment. Try to imagine yourself as Moses in this moment, okay? I led you through the wilderness for 40 years. The clothes on your back did not wear out, nor did the sandals on your feet. You had no bread to eat, no wine or other intoxicant to drink, that you might know that I, the Lord your God. When you reach this place, King Sicho of Heshbon and King Og of Bashan came out to engage us in battle, and we defeated them. We took their land and we gave it to the Reubenites, the Gadites, the half-tribe of Manasseh as their heritage. Therefore, observe faithfully all the terms of this covenant, that you may succeed in all that you undertake. These are the final verses of the Parsha. I'll look at Hebrew here for a second. Number 3. V'lo natan Adonai lachem. To this day, God, Lev Lada'at ve'einayim lirot, has not given you a mind to understand or eyes to see. Those 9 lishma, or ears to hear, ad hayom hazeh, until this day. What do you hear? And how do you interpret this verse?
It's like a rebirth.
Oh,
It was what?
a rebirth.
Because you didn't have the capacity to understand, and now you're like, I hate to say born again, because that, but you're like born again,
Yeah.
and now you can start to realize and see and hear all of the things that you didn't get before.
What beautiful language, right? A rebirth, not until this day. right? Now it's as if you're being literally created into this world, okay?
We're still the children. We're still not where we inspired to be or where God wants us to be. We're still the children.
Okay, interesting, so we're still B'nai Israel, we're still the children of Israel, okay, okay, interesting. What else? Who else has a reflection on the text?
No, I see it as a bigger idea in that we can never know God's ways at any time. We can't understand what God has in mind, because we don't know.
Okay,
You know, like, why did this happen, you know, and you don't know the answer, because we don't know God's ways.
okay, very interesting, Tara.
I wrote down, this is the story of our relationship with God. God comes out of Egypt, we give to God, and God gives us.
Okay, lovely.
I can also hear from Moses' point of view, he's been schlepping these people for years and years and years that had to change from being slaves to get to this point. It was a mindset, and like you're saying, a rebirth, finally, to get to a point where they've changed enough to even understand what they have to do once they get to the Eretz Israel.
Yet for the day. So that's the future thing. I think it sounds like an evolution within unity itself, not just physical, it's an evolution of learning how to hear and adapting, whatever the other word for it.
Understand,
Understand, yeah.
yeah, the evolution that's a beautiful word too, I love that. I love this one. I led you through the wilderness for 40 years. The clothes on your back did not wear out, nor did the sandals on your feet. Now you're about to enter into this land. You're going to dwell there. You're going to work the land there. You are, right? And it's not until now, as we're about to cross over into the land, that you have the capacity to understand, to see, and to hear. But what Moses is imparting, the wisdom that Moses is imparting in this moment, at this time, is saying, not only will you be granted the capacity, but you're going to have to use it. You have journeyed and you have been, all because you have been provided for. Jack.
Just a question concerning here. I envision this, and you may agree or disagree, is from the Parsha of Pinchas on, Moses morphs from being a leader into being a teacher.
Yeah.
I mean, at first he's a leader and a prophet, and when God tells him he's not going there, and his legacy is not going to be in this land, he realizes that it's his time to teach. When you look into Deuteronomy, many times it's stated that people believe that Moses wrote Deuteronomy.
Right.
I don't, I mean, here you have Moses was picked because he was a very humble individual. And when it says, I led you through the wilderness, if there was a quote there, it's God talking, not Moses saying he did this.
Right.
Yet many people interpret it. In fact, at the beginning of Deuteronomy, it says, these are the words that Moses spoke from the other side of the river. Right. So we now know this is written by someone who is now in the land of Israel,
right.
who is talking about what happened on the other side. And this sentence, where I led you through the wilderness, that's God's talking. I mean, if Hebrew had quotes, that would be a quote from God, not a quote from a humble person like Moses.
Yeah, I think that's a beautiful reflection, and I think absolutely, I think the evolution of Moses is so significant in Deuteronomy. It's the reason why it's my favorite book of Torah. I think that the writing of Deuteronomy is not just profound, but it is it's insightful, it's emotional, it's educational, there's pedagogy, like there's so much to it that is, it's a completely different book. Obviously, I get it, it is a different book, but it's completely different in its writing, in its style, and in its essence, its ethos of the book. And I think if you could say, oh, Moses wrote it, you could say somebody who had been listening wrote it, somebody who had heard the story wrote it years later to reflect on what do we need to know and what do we need to hear most, right? You could argue that this was written during a time when the Jewish people needed to be reminded of this story and of this journey, right? And to remind us that things are not just granted and given to us, but we are in an active covenant with one another, with God, to partner to make these things happen. And of course you could put quotes that I led you through the wilderness. Of course, it could be God, it could be Moses, right? But it's also just, it could be a retrospective from somebody who had heard it to say, remember, you walked through that desert and you wore the same shoes, right? Never scuffed. The soles never were tattered. You always had a level of comfort, even in a place of discomfort and challenge. God was protecting you. Remember that? And remember that this day, you have been given the capacity to know and understand, to learn and to hear. It's a charge, right? Another way that you can read the book that I love, just because of what I do, is that it's one long sermon. It's a powerful sermon, right? The wisdom and the richness of the book of Deuteronomy, the lessons that Moses is passing down to the people are not just time bound. They are excellent lessons for us. Remember, you have a mind to understand. You don't just have to do what you're told. You have a mind to understand. You don't just have to accept the way that the world is today. You have a mind to understand. You have ears to hear. So listen to people. Be open to listening to people. Right? You have eyes to see. Don't put blinders on them. Don't blind yourself to the plight of others. You have eyes to see for a reason. You have ears to hear for a reason. To be heard, to listen, to internalize what you hear, also to open them up and to be willing to hear, especially when you don't want the person to say, right? And that's where we are today. Rabbi Dan and I had our meeting yesterday, and we had this awesome conversation. We were trying just to understand and to think about what does it mean to hear across the chasm, right? Our world, our community, our friendships, there's a chasm between people, right? And so sitting there thinking about, like, what role do we play? Not can we play, should we play? What role do we play and should we play in minding that gap? Because if we continue to live in a world where our ears only hear the echo chamber that we want to hear, that's a very different world than if our ears are tuned to listen and to hear the person that's on the other side of the gap. Now, I'm not saying you have to agree with what anyone is saying across the gap. However, hearing does not mean I agree with you and I'm going to write off. Yeah. But hearing means that you show the respect and the humanity to recognize that there is someone that you know and are in relationship with who is saying something that is different than what you understand. Okay. But does that mean that we can't be in relationship with one another and live in the world and inhabit the world together? Okay. Right? These are the questions we have to ask. Would you be willing to ask them? Sometimes our ears, it sounds like nails on a chalkboard. Okay, I know it's uncomfortable. But sometimes we can be willing to dwell in discomfort in order to get to a place of understanding. Because we have been given a mind to understand. It's powerful words from the Torah. And it's an amazing reminder from Moses, from God, whoever was writing it. What are you speaking? Right? You have these things, these gifts, and what are you going to do with them? And what the Parsha reminds us is that the first fruits that we derived from this partnership, this covenant, because once you get in the land, the fruits are not gonna drop from heaven. That's a huge shift for the people of Israel. When they were hungry in the morning, they woke up, they walked outside, and it was sitting right in front of them. Double portion on Shabbos. When you enter the land, different story. God will bless it. It's gonna happen if you till the land, if you toil the soil, if you engage in the partnership, and you show the gratitude. It's all part of the life cycle of the relationship. That the gratitude piece is not an extra, it's part of. So when we think about our responsibility and where we're sitting today, we think about, okay, Rosh Hashanah is in whatever, 11 days, 10 days, whatever it is, okay? I now am gonna be saying, when I enter into this new land called 5786, right, this new world, when you enter it, here's what you should do. You should collect the bounty of your first fruits. So imagine if you had a little basket in your house, and after Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, you symbolically collected your bikurim, your first fruits of the new year, and placed them there. I don't know what those first fruits are gonna be. I don't know what they're gonna be for you. Well, what are you gonna work on? What are you gonna till? What are you gonna plant? What are you gonna fertilize to let it grow? And when it's ready, what are you gonna place there? And how are you gonna offer your gratitude? Remind you where I'm coming from. So this past year, I did great. There were moments I didn't do great, moments that I fell, not a trip, full face frontal fall, right? But I got back up. And now I remember where I've come from, and I now know where I'm going. It's a part of our tradition, and it's the work that the tradition asks us to do. Any final comments before we jump into the paragraph that I want us to read for the commentary?
Just really quickly, it is very interesting that we do a food drive.
Yeah, that is interesting.
You know, this time. I don't know if it's actually related, but for us, now we can make that connection.
We can definitely make that connection. I love that connection, right? To not just give from what we can to help feed others, but it's also another moment. It's like a collection of all the things that we are hoping for. That's beautiful. You got a fabulous bag.
I like what you say.
She said, I like when people say I agree to disagree.
Because they're listening, they're not agreeing, but they're happy that I feel it.
Beautiful, right? It's another level of, for you, of relationship. Beautiful. So
Well, I kind of see it as Moses being a great teacher. We started off like babies, like children. What did we know? We were slaves. We were not fake.
yeah,
We did what we were told, and it was too tired to even do anything. You have to educate, start all over again. You can't jam into it. So it's a whole process. Through, the desert and getting there, and now this is. Now we're covered. Now maybe we're supposed to it's progress.
a time of great understanding and caring. Yeah.
I just think, in essence, what you were saying, it's also just, he was teaching to be independent. And that's a journey in itself.
Yes.
In college,
Jack, do you have your hand up, or is it from before?
What?
Jack, do you have your hand up, or is it just from before?
No, when I look at this, not individually, I see Deuteronomy. If one believes in the documentary theory, you realize that no one person, if you don't believe God wrote the Torah, but was inspired, you realize there's a group of people. Deuteronomy, to me, was Moses' success in teaching the people that went into the land of Israel what he wanted them to know. Because the person who is talking about what Moses gave them is a group. And that group learned from what Moses was saying. And even though Moses wasn't there, his legacy is us.
Yeah.
As a result, all of the things that are said here are a learned process by the people in the land from Moses on the other side of the river.
Beautiful. Okay, let's read this part. So this is a commentary. Moses, A Human Life. Moses wrote his own book. It says, one particularly poignant moment of this kind comes towards the end when he reproaches the people. God has not given you a heart to know, or eyes to see, or ears to hear until this day. For 40 years, Moses led the people through the wilderness, but it is only now that he can articulate their flaw, their lack of sentiments. Only now, point of view perspective, only now, retrospectively, can Moses speak, not only of obedience and disobedience, faith and skepticism, but also of the heart, the eyes, and the ears that are unaccountably absent from their body experience. This guy's information. Their senses, their ability to be affected by the world, are somehow deficient. This is his last speech before they enter the covenant, which ends the Torah narrative. Moses has just spoken of all the great signs and wonders that their eyes have seen, even repeating the expression that your eyes have seen. Why then does he add this personal scathing coda about their amazing sentiments over the 40 years of his leadership? Perhaps, suggests the Talmud, he's referring to a developmental capacity for gratitude. That only this day has finally evolved. From here we learn, says Rava, that one does not fully understand one's teacher until 40 years have passed. Right? Think about that.
Yes.
Rava reads hopefully against the grain of the text. It is the emotional and moral resonances of one's teacher's Torah that make the 40 years to realize. Rashi adds, till this very day suggests that this day you have become a people. Now they are responsible for their own moral being. Moses has granted the people 40 years of latitude. Now begins their time of full moral responsibility. Their past deficits are part of their process of maturation. However, in another comment, Rashi goes further. God has not given you a heart to know, to recognize God's loving acts and to cling to God till this very day. This day, I understand that you do cling to God and desire God. Here, the subject is not so much the people's moral development as their passionate vision of God's love and their emotional capacity to love God in return. Moses criticizes the people and implicitly celebrates the radical turn in their relationship to God this very day. Gratitude and love are now within their range of religious experience. What are your reflections?
Percent of gratitude, be full true.
Okay.
And I think, they keep saying we're stepping on people, nobody, we got to go to care, we complained about water, we complained about food, we complained about not having meat, we complained about. And now, stop complaining. Look at what God has done and be grateful.
I know what's so interesting about that too is one of the things that the author here is suggesting, and that the comment that Rashi and the Talmud and Rava, all of these great sages of our tradition are talking about, is that the journey in and of itself leads them to get to the place of capacity and capability to truly know, understand, and acknowledge, right? Like we talk about this throughout the Torah narrative about how they are from where they come as slaves, and then entering into the desert of not knowing how to live in the world. They like a slave's mentality and their lives are so difficult and tragic, and they're not given the capacity to think for themselves. And so this journey of shedding that layer takes them to one part of their journey. Then they get to Sinai, and they still build the golden calf because their fear of that intangible God of not seeing, because they need the tangible, then leads them to build the calf. But then, right, there's continual moments along the journey that we experience that they're not yet ready. They're close, they're trying. Babies, they can't. What do? I'm thirsty. Right, like all these things are the barriers of true entry to that covenant. And here, what they're saying is now you're here. And this realization that you're no longer gonna be this nomadic people. And now you're gonna be settled in this place, and you will have inherited the promise that our people have been searching and seeking for centuries. You're gonna inherit this because now you're ready, right?
Like Sylvie said, when my son went to college, you know, it was always like a struggle to get him to do anything, he wasn't appreciative, he went to college, and then after like the second, year, he called me up the first week of school, and he said, thank you for making me who I am, for giving responsibility and big words, for not making me a dead. So, you know, it is, it's like.
Yeah, and I to understand.
And all of a sudden, grown up enough to be an adult,
Yeah,
to appreciate it.
you know, I love that. First of all, call it come out that he actually called you and said that's
Yeah.
amazing, right? Like, wow. Okay, good, there's hope. Okay. Just celebrated fifth birthday, I get yelled at for, you know, okay, anyway, so, I love that story, and one of the things, like, if you think about 40 is a number that follows us throughout our tradition in many different ways, but, we were on this past weekend, I think it was, or I think it was this weekend, we, taught, I teach in Kabbalah and mysticism class to the teens and their parents. And traditionally, you don't study the Zohar until you're 40 years old, right? Because our tradition is like, and here it is, at that point, at that time in your life, you've achieved a level of maturity of life experience that you can then absorb what this teaching is all about. So I think a lot about that with regard to this experience, that they had to have those experiences to not just accept the land and dwell there, but also to have the gratitude. And what Moses is teaching us in Moses' wisdom is that you can't have the gratitude fully without having replayed and reminded yourself of the experience of where you come. So this is a trope that we see throughout our tradition. We often, no matter where, like multiple holidays are kick off with, you once were strangers in a land, God redeemed you, right? With an outstretched arm, and you crossed the sea, right? And even when you go to bring these first fruits, even when you're focused on a specific ritual that you think has a specific purpose, don't forget the journey and where you've come from, so that you can not only appreciate where you currently are, but that the gratitude that you're offering has a depth to it. That you have a mind to understand it, you have ears to hear and eyes to see. And one of the things I want to leave us with today is, I love this last line, that gratitude and love are now within their range of religious experience. If we think about our own liturgy, and we think about our liturgy is packed full of gratitude and ahava, love. And that those two pieces are not tangential to our religious faith journey. That they are very much at the core and the heartbeat of what it means to see the world through a Jewish lens, to feel your Judaism within yourself, and to feel a connection, whatever that connection is, to some level of divinity, whatever that is for you, however that speaks true to you. That rooted in that religious experience are these two factors, gratitude and love. And our expression of those things, our ability to receive those things, you can offer gratitude and love. That's very important. But it is also really important to be open to receiving gratitude and love. That is my message for you for this new year. To be open to receiving gratitude. So often, we just, oh, of course, no worries, all good. Be open to receiving the gratitude. Thank you for blah, blah, blah. You know what your response can be? You're welcome. It is not an act of ego or overconfidence or whatever to say you're welcome. That's my gift to you. That's my beat for you. That's my first fruits for you today. That as you enter 5786, when someone says thank you, you say you're welcome. Okay, I'm leaving us 2 minutes early because I have announcements for you. First announcement, tomorrow morning. Well, tonight's service is 7:30. That's a duh, you all know that. Okay. 7:30. 7:30. Okay. Tonight, 7:30.
Oh, no.
Tonight, 7:30, tonight. Okay. Tomorrow morning, 9:30 a.m. We are going to the beach. Don't start with me that you don't want to get into the bathing suit, you don't want to get into the water. You don't have to. Wear clothes that you don't mind getting wet. Do you need to fully immerse? I'm not the mikvah checker. You can go to your ankles. Great. Feel mind kind. Feel the living waters. That's all I ask of you. I promise you it is a gift. It is a gift of a moment of right as we approach Rosh Hashanah to immerse yourself and to feel the living waters so that you can emerge ready and prepared for the new year. So tomorrow morning, 9:30 a.m. If you don't want to park there, you can meet us here at 9 a.m. at Schaefer, and some of us can carpool, so it's less cars.
Do you need a permit to park there?
There is street parking and there's like some metered parking, and then there is beach parking.
It's like $50 to park, I think it's obscene.
Well, yeah, you don't want to park, like, if you don't have a sticker, then like those, parking lots are like $50 or $60.
You can also go to the pavilion, but that's always. full.
There's like an hour of the pavilion, but if you don't have a sticker, then we can meet here at 9 and people can, for those of us who have stickers, there's a few of us that have stickers, that you can jump in cars, we can go together. The other thing is if, you know, 4 of you get into a car, then it's $10, so whatever it is, that's your choice. You can divvy out the parking, it's $10 versus car, or your street parking. Okay, but there's plenty of people that have stickers, but also talk to your friends about it, come here at 9 and we'll go together. When we offered transportation last year, nobody took it, they all wanted to go.
No, I
together.
drove.
There were some people who drove, but I mean, like, we didn't take a bus.
Oh, yeah.
Like, but there was enough people that met us here early that there's enough of us that you can partner up. And then you can leave your car here and you can come back. But it's a beautiful morning. We do a little Shabbat ritual in the pavilion. We meet in the pavilion and then we go down to the ocean together. And we do a beautiful immersion ritual and we end up singing Shabbat music in the ocean. Like, it's so good. It's so good. Join us for that. And then tomorrow and then Saturday night, the hope here, 7 p.m. We're gonna have an amazing program of, we're gonna be learning about the book of life. Okay, so we're gonna study with the rabbis about the book of life and its meaning, and then after we do that, we are going to give a bookmark for those of you who helped to assemble them. I'm grateful. We have a bookmark about so that we can mark our place in the book of life, and we're gonna tie a seat at the end of that bookmark as a tangible way to remind ourselves to live by God's ways and the mitzvot in order to mark ourselves in the book of life. It's gonna be a great day, and then we have services. We have Havdalah, we change the Torah covers to white. And then we go into the sanctuary for the first taste of all of the amazing music and sound of the holy days, not to miss. Okay, so everyone's clear? Saturday morning, 9:30 or 9 a.m. here first for carpooling, and then 7 o'clock Saturday night for tunnel. Good deal?
Yeah.
And service.